Take no Christmas. This time we're gonna live like a dream. Tonight the orange blue delivers. Walking town, walking cheap. The heart was working. The hands would keep on working. And the orange blue was the whole thing.
Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk, where we give it to you absolutely positively, unequivocally, with no chaser whatsoever. I am your host, Christopher Platt, the People's Champ, and as always, we are broadcasting live this evening from the Platt Cave. How's everybody doing out there? I had to take a brief minute to gloat just a little bit because, as you all know, our Cleveland Cavaliers are now in the NBA Finals. And I felt that was gloat-worthy. You got to pardon me for a second. I'm a little out of shape, so I'm trying to catch my breath while I'm talking to you. But it's kind of a big deal. So I took a little minute to gloat, as people file into the chat room. I got a minute to get my little Carlton on and dance to my song. Hope you guys are doing all right this evening. So for those of you that don't know, our Cleveland Cavaliers did finish off the sweep of the Atlanta Hawks, and now we find ourselves in the NBA Finals. Now, I caution my Cleveland fans, and if you're a Cleveland fan, I really don't even have to say this because you already know what it is. We cannot count our chickens before they are hatched. We have to be cool. I'm about to sound like an athlete here for a second. We got to take it one a day at a time, one game at a time. That's just how it is to avoid getting hurt. Y'all know how it is. If you're from Cleveland, you know what it is. But I got to be honest. I'm starting to believe. I am certainly starting to believe. I don't know where you guys are, but I'm starting to believe this might be it. Granted, we've been down this road before, but I'm starting to believe that this might be it. So I'm a little excited. Yes, A-Row, I can see that. Thank you very much. So the chat is working this week, so it's already going to be a better show than last week because we have the chat up. So how are you guys out there today? I'm very excited. Now, don't get me wrong. Golden State is going to be a tough matchup. But I'm starting to believe, which, as you know, as a Cleveland sports fan, that can be dangerous from time to time. Being a Cleveland fan is almost like, it's like being a Cleveland sports fan. It's like, okay, you're constantly and perpetually waiting to get punched in the stomach, right? So you got your abdomen muscles all clenched up and tensed, and you're ready for it. Like, yeah, when it comes, I'm ready. When it comes, I'm ready. I'm ready. Whenever you want to come, I'm ready. And then something happens, and you think that perhaps, quite possibly, this time it'll be different, right? So then you start to unclench those abdomen muscles. And the minute you start unclenching those abdomen muscles, right? Pow! Right? That's pretty much what it's like to be a Cleveland sports fan. However, I'm starting to believe. So we'll see what happens. That being said, I'll see you guys on June 4th, game 1 of the NBA Finals, which will be in Oakland. So we'll see what happens. How you guys doing today? I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good, obviously. A lot of things I want to talk about this evening. I want to get into, today's topic is talking about baggage and why it's so important to rid ourselves of our baggage. So I want to get into that a little bit. And I also want to get into briefly, I actually participated last evening in a think tank. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about that and among other things. Now, speaking of Cleveland, I guess I have to talk about this, don't I? I kind of have to talk about this, don't I? For those of you that don't know, and by this time probably everybody knows, there was an incident that happened in Cleveland over the weekend. Let me rewind you to bring you forward real quick, just to give you a brief overhang, because I don't know all the details of the case myself, but I want to give you just a little brief overview of what's going on so you'll know what the hell's going on while we talk about it for the next couple of minutes, okay? So 2 years ago, back in 2013, there was a situation where I believe it was a guy and a girl. They were in a car and they were getting pulled over because of a broken taillight, I believe. So for whatever reason, they decided to run. And again, I don't know all the specifics. I really don't know what happened. Perhaps my Cleveland people can fill me in on this, because I like to get in depth about this a little bit. So they run. So one thing leads to another, and the bottom line is, so they're at the car. They've got cops behind them. And you know how sometimes your car stalls. If you got an older car, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it may stall, and then that bow, you get that big bow out of the exhaust pipe. So as soon as the said officers heard that bow coming out the exhaust pipe, they unloaded into the car. And I believe they unloaded 137 shots into the car. Now, the main detective, or the main officer that was involved in this, I can't remember his name. Maybe somebody can hit me with his name here on the social stream. He was responsible for 49 of the 137 shots, right? So I went to trial, and to make a long story short, he was acquitted of all charges. Now, the reason being, and y'all not going to believe this shit, but the reason that he was off is because the judge, and I'm not bullshitting you, you can look it up if you don't know. The judge let him go on the grounds that out of the 137 shots that were fired, including the 49 that this gentleman unloaded into the car, they had to let him go because it was inconclusive as to who fired the fatal shot. This cop got off because, according to the judge, it was inconclusive who fired the fatal shot. I almost forgot. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that if you're new to the broadcast, there's 2 ways that we can go about doing this. Number one, you can sign in through the social stream of your choice, be it Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Okay, you can sign in from there. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can also actually sign up on the actual Ustream website itself. You'll have to create a username, password, all that good stuff. But either way, if you choose to do it either way, the most important thing is that you are now able to chat with me. So your questions, your comments, your concerns, whatever you'd like to talk about, whatever, I can see it, okay? And I tend to toggle back and forth between the social stream as well as the chat stream as well. So you can log in either way, whatever's more conducive to you and your lifestyle, whatever you try to do. Only thing that I ask is that you do log in so we can chat, right? So back to the case. So yes, so this gentleman, this cop got off because according to the judge, it was inconclusive as to who fired the fatal shot. Now, my Cleveland people, I want you guys to, I want you all to chime in. What's the mood like in Cleveland? What's the vibe like out there right now? Because I saw how they did it, now, and we're going to get into that as well, because the way everything went down, it was real smooth. It was real slick. You can see that they've learned from their mistakes in both Ferguson as well as Baltimore. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But what's the mood like down there in Cleveland, or out there in Cleveland rather? I beg your pardon. What's the mood like? Because I got to be honest, I know how Cleveland is. Cleveland is a very misanthropic city. So I didn't expect a spectacle, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing in Cleveland, and everybody's kind of doing God knows what. So I didn't expect an organized demonstration or protest such as in Ferguson or in Baltimore. I just didn't expect that. And that's because it's Cleveland. And I know Cleveland because that's home base, right? Born and raised, home base for the most part. So I know Cleveland. So I didn't expect that. And also the way that everything went down, it was very conducive to diffusing the situation. Because, see, I was more focused on how they did it. And quite frankly, those bastards, you got to pop your collar to them. You have to pop your collar to them because the way that everything went down. So, for example, they drugged this out and they decided to release the verdict not only on a Saturday, but on the Saturday of a holiday weekend. Now, I can speak from personal experience because I've been sitting in that jail cell on a Friday night, pissed off because I can't see the judge till Monday. So it's like, damn, I got to spend the weekend in this melon farm. And there's a million and one different ways I would much rather have been spending my weekend than sitting up in a damn jail cell, drinking Kool-Aid with no sugar, and eating beets with every fucking meal. So I said that to say that's rare. Now, number two, another thing that struck me is that the cop requested, or he waived his right to a jury trial, okay? Now, if anybody knows anything about Cleveland, there's a lot of black folks in Cleveland. So had it gone to a jury trial, this cop would not have stood a chance. You feel me? He would not have stood a chance whatsoever. So that's slick as well. So it was a judge trial. Now, this judge, his last name, I believe, is O'Connell. I can't remember his first name. If somebody wants to look that up for me and shoot it to me, I'd appreciate it. But his last name is O'Connell. Now, he was endorsed by the police union. Now, when I say endorsed, that means they wrote him a check. You understand? You kind of see what's going on here now? Can you kind of put it together? Okay, let me recap just a little bit for everybody that's just coming into the room. All right, so we're talking about the situation that went down in Cleveland. The cop was found acquitted. They stopped the car. They ran for whatever reason. Car stops. It stalls. You know how when your car stalls, sometimes that big boom comes out of the exhaust pipe. They took that for a gun. They unloaded 137 shots into the car. The people were unarmed, by the way. Let me mention that. The people were unarmed, and they unloaded 137 shots into the car. Now, the main officer, he was responsible for 49 shots, and he was acquitted by the judge on a Saturday under the guise that they could not determine who fired the fatal bullets. Okay, so now that you're up to speed, we're talking about how peculiar and how slick it was the way everything went down. So they read the verdict on a Saturday, and anybody that's ever spent time in lockup that ever got arrested on a Friday knows how frustrating it is because you're not going to be able to see that judge until Monday, rather, right? So you're just stuck like Chuck in county for the weekend. It's a shitty way to spend your weekend, right? So they announced it on a Saturday, the Saturday of a holiday, mind you. So what that means, all that means is that all the good white people are home or out of town. So they're not going to get hurt in case something popped off downtown Cleveland, right? The officer waived his right to a jury trial, which was very intelligent on his part because of all the black people in Cleveland. The man wouldn't have stood a chance. And the judge that presided over the case was endorsed by the police department, by the police union. Now, when I say endorsed, that means they cut him a check for his campaign. They wrote him a check, right? You starting to understand how politics works now? You starting to understand? A. Rose says the city and the Department of Justice announced that there will be changes in the police force. Anywho, so you're starting to understand how this whole political game works now, right? And the energy had dissipated so much that when the verdict finally did come down, I don't really think Clevelanders knew what to do. So, and again, like I said earlier, I didn't expect a full-on demonstration, the likes of Baltimore or Ferguson, when the verdict was released. And then I peeped how they did everything, and they did everything so smoothly. So all my Cleveland people, like I said, shoot me a line. Let me know what the vibe is like out there right now. Because we got that situation, and then the Tamir Rice situation is still hanging over everybody's heads as well, right? But I said all that to say that can you start to understand now how this whole political thing actually works? Because, see, a lot of you are still under the impression that all you got to do is cast your vote and it's all good. But that's not really how this works. That's not how politics works. I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but not so much. So are you starting, again, to get an understanding about how this political game works? You get the education. After you get the education, you start the business. Now you got the finance. Then once you have the finance, you buy the politics. You buy the politics. A. Rose says, I don't see anything about any current protests, so I'm thinking things are back to normal. Well, it's as normal as Cleveland could get. You know. Plus, we worried about trying to win this chip right now, so, you know, it is what it is. But I said all that to say, do you see how this political game works now? Like, you don't just cast your vote and your guy wins or your woman wins and then it's supposed to be all good. No. We can no longer afford to be as politically naive as we are. Like, we just cannot afford that at this particular point in time. Now, on the heels of that incident in Cleveland, something else came to my attention. Because if anybody knows me, if you guys know me, you know that I'm a big picture guy. I try to see the big picture and bring it into focus and see what's going on. And it's starting to become abundantly clear to me that the powers that be, the true owners of this country, I almost think they want a race war to pop off. I'm kind of thinking that's where they're at. They kind of want this whole race war thing to pop off. That's why I'm thinking that. Now, why are you thinking that, Chris? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because during a given day, okay, all over the world, there's a lot of shit that happens, okay? A lot of things happen, all right? And now the media that is owned by the same corporations, by the way, that buy the politicians, they cherry pick the stories that they choose to cover and that they choose to present to us as news, right? And it seems as if every other day you're coming across another story about another unarmed black person being assaulted or killed by the police department. Seems like every other day. Now, to be fair, social media has a lot to do with that as well, because social media gets us the news instantaneously, because everybody is a damn reporter. Everybody has a camera on their phone, right? So everybody's a damn reporter, producer, whatever. So that has a lot to do with it as well. And it helps to bring some of the atrocities that would have previously gone unnoticed or unmentioned to light. However, I understand how this game works. And I understand that there's a reason that these particular stories are garnering so much attention right now. And it ain't because Black Lives Matter. Let me tell you that shit right now. These stories aren't garnering so much attention because Black Lives Matter. Let's keep it 110, right? That ain't the case. And so you see the sides developing. And there's really not a whole lot of middle ground right here. You either feel like this or you feel like that. So now what's happening is that we were never like this. Let's just, we were never like this. Maybe we were here, right? Maybe we were here. But now we're doing this, right? And let me tell you something else. The greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was making ordinary white people think that they have more in common, think that you all have more in common with the elite than you do with us. And again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's just not the case. Because, see, this thing is, at the end of the day, this thing is about classism. Now, I talk a lot about race and this and that, trying to eradicate that, because you have to understand that the class system was first put in place based upon and predicated upon race. But either you're a have or you're a have not. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So now I see the puppet masters, they're pulling the strings right now because tensions are at an all-time high right now. And quite frankly, a lot of this race shit is stemming from the fact that ain't nobody got no money. And just on an individual level, how do you feel when when your bank account is in overdraft? Shit gets a little real, don't it? You start to feel that tenseness around your neck a little bit, don't you? That noose gets just a wee bit tighter, don't it? When you ain't got no money, right? So that's what's going on. Frank Nitti says positive things never keep people's attention. That's true. That's the kind of news that gets attention. That's true. He said, Frank Nitti also said, what's up, Nitti, by the way? It said it's either human nature or we have been programmed to want to know about negative news. See, I say the latter. I say the latter. I say the latter. That we've been programmed to want to hear about negative news. Or maybe not even negative news. We've been programmed to want to hear salacious news. Because everything ain't all bad, because we want to know about which stars are fucking each other too. You know what I mean? And that falls into the salacious category. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really see this. I really see that they want this race war thing to play out. And why wouldn't I? People get killed. It just is what it is. So I urge you all not to fall for the okie doke. Black and white. Because black, we know what it is, man, but you can't allow yourself to get so caught up and so rah-rah that you miss the forest for the trees. That's all I'm saying. But then again, I don't even know why I'm saying that, because black people, y'all don't really seem to give a damn, because if you did, all this crap wouldn't be happening. Just saying. You know why black lives don't matter? Because we've done nothing to make them matter. And see, a lot of y'all think like the white supremacists do. Y'all just don't realize it. But a lot of y'all think like that. A lot of y'all think like that. Because, again, we've been conditioned to think a certain way. When you hear something involving peoples of color, you think a certain way. And again, this is just how the brain works, y'all. You get bombarded with certain messages and certain imagery. That's how the brain works. It's on a subconscious level. So you might even be a good melon farmer. Like, you might be a good, honest, hardworking person. But again, this is how the brain works, man. This is why advertising is so effective and such a huge part of society. Frank says, got to have a scapegoat. Well, yeah, see, that's what the liberal media likes. See, that's what they like on the left. They like having scapegoats because they don't really want to deal with any of the issues of racism or classism or sexism. They don't really want to deal with any of that. They just need somebody to point the finger at. You know what I mean? Like, that's the bad guy right there. That's the bad guy. See, the left needs somebody to blame, so that's what they do. They find scapegoats. That's what they all about. You know what I mean? Now, the right totally ignores them. Speaking of the right, let me get to this before we get to the topic. I just wanted to touch on this just briefly and get y'all thoughts about this. Mr. Race Hustler himself, Mr. Bill O'Reilly. Did y'all hear about this? So apparently, Mr. Bill, family man that he is, he's going through divorce proceedings. And it came out that according to his daughter, she testified that Mr. Family Values himself, Bill O'Reilly, got caught up in a bit of a domestic skirmish, we should say. And his daughter testified to his wife, her mother, Mr. Bill O'Reilly, was dragging her down a flight of stairs by her hair. Did you guys hear about that one? You might not have. I'm not going to lie to you. You might not have. Google it right now. Google Bill O'Reilly and domestic violence. Y'all might not have heard about that one. Yeah, that happened though. And my question is, where is all these feminist groups? Right? Where's all these people up in arms about domestic violence, right? I thought we were supposed to care about women. Where's everybody? You've heard nothing, have you? You might not even have known that happened until I just said something right now. Right? So, sorry, ladies, Guess you'll just have to wait till some football player smacks up his old lady or the next Floyd Mayweather fight for us to care about domestic violence. Give a damn about women. Guess you just have to wait. I think he's fighting in September, though, so it's not that long. So, right? The same media that flambasted Floyd. You haven't heard anything, have you, about this Bill O'Reilly situation, have you? But we care oh so much about women in this country, right? We care oh so much about them, don't we? I'm just saying. Either we're going to care about women or we're not. Either we're going to take a stand against domestic violence or we're not. But if you choose to take that stand against domestic violence, then should it matter who it is? Like, should it be wrong all across the board? See, this is the game I'm trying to get y'all to see, man. This is the game that they play with us, man. And we fall for it hook, line, and sinker, man, because we can't see the forest for the trees, man. Y'all don't see this? Am I really tripping that bad? Like, am I really out there that bad? I'm just saying, if it's wrong, it's wrong, right? And it is wrong. Nobody's condoning that. It is wrong. But if we're going to get on one, don't we have to get on the other? And if we choose not to get on the other and we choose to turn a blind eye to the other, then what's that really saying? What's really going on here then? That's the question. What's really going on? By the way, tonight's broadcast is brought to you by the good folks at Dos Equis. I don't always drink beer during my broadcast, but when I do, I prefer to be Dos Equis. Stay inebriated, my friends. So what's really going on here? What's really going on here? Are we saying that it's okay for one but not okay for the other? Is that what we're saying? Or are we going to say, well, she had it coming? I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So, Frank, you're saying that race issues are being highlighted because of the economy. You're saying because of the fact that nobody has any money? Is that what you're saying? Don't worry about that, though, because what's going to end up happening, like I've been talking, they're going to have to flood the market with some bread because the natives are getting restless. So this next regime that gets into office, they're going to do something to open up the floodgates of some bread. And you're going to be sitting up there singing, oh, happy days are here again, right? Totally missing the point. But is that what you're saying? I don't want to misquote you. Is that what you're saying? I'll give you a minute to respond. So that's all I'm saying, man. Like, don't fall for the okie doke. That's the bottom line. We can't fall for the okie doke right now because they're trying to tear us apart right now. And this is the time we need to be coming together and looking up. Right? I'm not saying, I'm just saying, okay, that's what he's saying. Yeah. And that could be the case too. I actually agree with you, man. Yeah, they are highlighting that. Now, race is an issue. Don't get me wrong. Race is definitely an issue, and it's an issue because we never really have honest dialogue about it, which is one of the reasons I started this platform, to give us an opportunity to say how we feel, to be honest about things, and try to come up with some solutions. And to show you what it really is, to show y'all what it really is and what's really going on. So, but I agree with that. Because we're not even thinking about how we ain't got no money right now, right? So, again, if you're just joining us, you're tuned in to Straight Talk this evening. We talked a little bit about the incident in Cleveland with the cop that was acquitted for firing 49 out of 137 shots into the car. Right now, we were talking a little bit about the Bill O'Reilly domestic situation. I'm about to get into this think tank that I just participated in last night, and we're also going to get to our main topic today, which is talking about why it is so important to alleviate yourself of your baggage. We're going to get into that momentarily. Before we do get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the think tank that I was involved in last night. Now, first and foremost, shout out to the brother Tariq Nasheed. If you're not familiar with Tariq Nasheed and his work, he is the gentleman that founded that is the producer, the director, all that of the Hidden Colors film series. If you're not familiar with the Hidden Colors film series, what the hell is wrong with you? Especially if you're a melanated person, you need to watch Hidden Colors. You really do. I cannot stress that enough. You need to sit down and you need to check out the Hidden Colors film series, okay? But I participated in a think tank last night with Tariq Nasheed and a few other gentlemen, and it was interesting. So the main focus of the topic, we talked a lot about election season, which is right around the corner, and what we need to do and how we need to create an agenda as to what we're going to bring to these politicians. Because black people, y'all know how it is, man. You know, it's election season, so you're going to see all these politicians out at your black churches, and they're going to be kissing little nigger babies, and they're going to be up there doing the schmurder dance and all that bullshit, giving us all these platitudes about how hard it is to be black in America, but they're not going to offer any tangible solutions. And once they get in office, they're not going to offer any tangible solutions, right? They're just going to tell you what you want to hear, and that's going to be enough. And you're going to say, oh my God, they're a Democrat and they're doing the schmurder. I'm going to vote for them. Yay. So we talked about what agenda that we needed to bring to these politicians, the amount of money we would have to raise to get these politicians to hear what we're talking about. And the main two things that we focused on were trying to get some of these brothers out of jail and also trying to keep these cops from putting hot lead in our asses all willy-nilly. So those were the main two topics that were discussed last night, and we came up, and I'm not going to give too much away here because I don't want to betray those brothers' trust, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again in the very near future. But those were the topics that were mainly discussed, and we talked about different strategies we could go about doing that, and a lot of different things. It was very enlightening, and I'm very glad and proud of myself that I took part in this, because I've been pushing for that on this platform for a while, that we need to have black think tanks and try to figure things out. You understand? Because the powers that be, they're playing chess, and we're stuck down here playing checkers. We happy just to get king, you know what I mean? So it was very interesting, very interesting. And it was the first time that I have participated in something like that. So I was proud of myself, and I felt like I did something, you know what I mean? Like I'm just not some storefront preacher sitting out here talking it and not walking it. You know what I mean? So we discussed those issues because you know that they're coming. And this was brought on because I don't know if you guys saw this either, but Hillary Clinton, there's an article about Hillary Clinton, and she was stumping in some city. I don't remember what it was, but she was talking about the amount of black and brown men that are incarcerated. And I found that very ironic and honestly very comical, seeing as how her husband is responsible for a lot of those black and brown people being locked up to this day. See, we like to throw that on Reagan because we know Reagan didn't like black folks. So we like to throw that on Reagan, but that was actually a Clinton initiative. You remember Clinton, right? The first black president. Just because a nigga hoops and eats McDonald's and went on Arsenio and played the saxophone, y'all was all in. Right? But he's the president that put the mandatory minimum in. So what that means is that if you get arrested and convicted on a drug charge, you have to automatically serve all of your sentence. Mandatory minimum. So if you get convicted for 3 years, you have to serve that 3. So as a result of that, because you got brothers, getting popped for having a little bit of, a few crack rocks on them, or, a little bag of weed or something, having to do these mandatory minimum sentences. And as a result, we're releasing rapists and murderers and pedophiles because the prisons are becoming overpopulated. Right? And we talked about how we have to take it into our hands to try to rehabilitate some of these brothers. We talked a lot about that as well. So I want you guys to stay tuned because we're going to get into that more and more. That's not the first one. We're going to keep doing this, and we're going to come up with some real tangible solutions. So all I can really say to you all is to stay tuned. Stay tuned because we talked about a lot of stuff that I'm not going to get into over these airwaves for obvious reasons, I believe. Because I'm up to 6 viewers right now. Shit, if I ever get up to 13, the feds might be on me. Right? I talk a lot of real shit, man, and sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. So yeah, I'm just saying. So we're not going to get into everything that we discussed. If you want to know something, holla at me when you see me in person, and I'll break it down for you like a compound fraction. So holla at me when you see me in person, and I'll break down the whole, how everything went down and the things that we talked about during that think tank session in totality. But that's a good thing, and we need to continue to do this. We need to continue to have safe spaces where we can come, where we can exchange ideas, where we can talk through things, and where we can come up with some sort of strategy. Because you clearly see the white supremacists have a strategy, right? If you don't see that, all you have to do is look at how the Cleveland situation was handled. They clearly learned from the mistakes in Ferguson and from the mistakes in Baltimore. And that situation didn't escalate an iota, did it? Now, if I'm wrong, again, my Cleveland people, man, please hit me the game if I'm wrong. Oh, before I forget, I just wanted to say a special shout out. Happy birthday to Andre 3 Stacks, Andre 3000 of the legendary hip hop group Outkast. Today is his 40th birthday, so I wanted to wish him a special shout out and happy birthday. And I forgot this last week, but I also wanted to give a special rest in paradise to blues legend B.B. King. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, tragically. I wanted to mention that last week, and it just slipped my mind, so I just want to make sure I got that out there. I got love for BB, man. I got hip to BB as a young whippersnapper, like 3-4 years old, because my grandfather, he was a huge BB King fan. So I got hip to BB a lot. He'd be sitting up there singing the BB songs, and I would take his cane, and I'd be singing background on the cane, and he'd be, oh, and I'd go, oh, you know. So, yeah, tremendous amount of respect, admiration, and love for BB King. So, RIP to BB King. Genuine blues legend, right? So I would have been remiss if I did not say that this week, because I forgot last week. So again, RIP to BB King. But do you kind of see what's going on here? Do you got to get a picture of that? Oh, Frank, that's what's up, man. I'll send you some info about it this week if you want to be a part of that. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of people there. There was about probably, I think, 18 of us. So enough to get something started, but enough to where I was still disappointed by the turnout. But yeah, man, I'll send you some information about it, okay? And we'll get that popping, because I would appreciate your mind in there. You know how I feel about your mind. But do you kind of see the picture that's being painted here? You kind of see what's going on? Are your eyes starting to get open? Just a little bit? Just a little bit? So you see what's going on. So now my question to you is, what are we going to do about it? Because, see, we can sit up here and talk about the problems all day, every day. But if we ain't talking about solutions, quite frankly, what's the point of talking? Right? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into Straight Talk this evening. We're getting ready to get into our topic this evening, which is talking about our baggage and why it's so pertinent that we dispose of said baggage. Now, again, if you are new to this broadcast, you can sign in one of two ways. You can sign in through the social stream of your choice, be it Facebook, Twitter, whatever the case may be. Or you can set up a username, an account, and password on the actual Ustream site itself. Pardon me. Either way, whatever's easiest for you. And now, once you do that, again, you can send me your comments, your questions, and your concerns, and we can turn this monologue into more of a dialogue. Because I can get up here and talk for 16 hours straight, okay, with nothing but a beer and a mile. But I want to hear from you. This is the people's show, which means it's my show, but it's also your show. So I want to hear from you as well, okay? I want to hear what you want to talk about. What are your thoughts about situations? What are your concerns? What are your questions? I talk fast sometimes, and I use a lot of metaphors and parables. So sometimes you might get lost in some of my rhetoric. If you need me to expound upon a specific topic or a specific idea, by all means, let me know. I have no problem with that. That's what I'm here for. This is a teaching mechanism. So I have no problem with that. So please let me know, okay? So the main thing that I wanted to talk about tonight, and this might turn into a two-parter, quite frankly, but I wanted to talk about baggage. Again, it's 2015. This is the year we're going to do better. We're trying to do better, and we are going to do better. So how do we begin to do better? Well, first, before we change the world, we got to change ourselves. Okay? Before we are able to change the world, we have to change ourselves. And tonight, I wanted to briefly get into one of the biggest hindrances to your development as a human being, as an individual. And that's baggage. Because, see, it's funny. We basically learn everything that we need to know to be a productive human being by the time we're 5 years old. We learn everything that we need to know about being a productive human being by the time we are 5 years old. So what happens after that? Well, we get older, we get bigger, and as we get older, We get a little bit more freedoms until we become of adult age, and then that's the ultimate freedom. And on occasion, one of the downsides to having freedom is that you're free to do some dumb shit. And sometimes through situations and circumstances, things happen. And then that's how we start to develop this baggage. Things pile up. And the baggage tends to make us gun shy as well. You remember how cockstrong and how sure of yourself and how fearless you were when you were 18, 19 years old? And as you get older, that spirit is beaten out of you constantly and consistently, and to the point that you just conform, or you just throw in the towel completely and just say, okay, this is my life. And they have a term in baseball, because they play 162 games. So they have a term in baseball when it's, late August, getting ready to go into the playoffs, and you're like 20 games out of first place, and you have no chance whatsoever to make the playoffs. They say you're playing out the string. And that's what a lot of us do. Sometimes that baggage becomes so overwhelming that we can't see the forest for the trees. And we see no way out. So then we become content to just play out the string. Fuck my hopes. Fuck my dreams. Fuck everything I thought this life was going to bring me. I'm just going to get by until it's my time to go to the upper room with Jesus. Try to bring a little humor to the proceedings. But do you understand what I'm saying? So how do we get there? Well, a lot of times, sometimes our baggage comes from choices that we made, but we don't want to necessarily deal with. A lot of times it comes from choices that we've made or missteps that we've made that we don't necessarily want to deal with. And I get that. I understand that. Because, see, that's a very painful process. To have to go back about all the things that went wrong in your life. And have to figure out what part you played in that. That's a very painful experience. So I understand why it's easier to compartmentalize those feelings. And then sometimes we deal with a situation where we feel a certain way about something or somebody, even though we know, because we're good people at heart. So we know that we have no business feeling the way that we feel about that situation. So instead of confronting those feelings, we stuff them down deeper. And we stuff them in there. And we just push them down. And we push them down. And we push them down. And if at any point they start to come up, we push them right back down. Even if we need a little help. Even if we need some performance enhancers. Even if we need a little drink. Even if we need a little smoke. Even if we need a little dope. We push them down. And then and then as a result of pushing them down, there's a void there. So then again, we try to fill that void because all we want to do is feel happy. We just want to feel good. Even if it's just temporary, we just want to feel good. It reminds me of something that my father used to say all the time. Because he struggled with his baggage and his demons just like we all do. And he would say that, yeah, I used to be able to drown my problems and my sorrows in liquor. these new problems know how to swim. Is any of this making sense to y'all? And then what happens is that we get so bogged down with our issues and our baggage and our problems and the things that we never properly dealt with, because we didn't deal with it. We just put it off to the side. We never really dealt with it. We just put it off to the side. And see, the thing about that is that it's whatever you do not deal with, you will have to deal with in some shape, form, or fashion. And whenever we try to compartmentalize those problems, whenever we try to push those problems to the side, whenever we try to block those problems out of our mind, rest assured that they will manifest themselves in some shape, form, or fashion. Those issues that we tried so hard as humans to run away from, they will manifest themselves in some shape, form, or fashion. Sometimes you don't even realize it. Somebody might make a flippant comment and you just go to hell off. And it really doesn't have a lot to do with that comment or that person, but whatever it was that they said struck a nerve. And it took us to a place that we didn't want to be. It took us to a place that we spend our entire lives trying to avoid. Does that make sense? We spend our whole lives trying to avoid going to those deep, dark crevices because we don't want to deal with that pain. We don't want to deal with that hurt. We don't want to deal with that anger. We don't want to deal with that disappointment. We don't want to deal with that. And see, the powers that be, they play on that because that's all they sell you. Hey, your life sucks, but buy my product and your life will suck a little less. And of course that doesn't work, does it? So then what do? We're looking for the next product. We're looking for the next high. And all we're doing is looking for an escape hatch. And we're looking for a place to run. And then sometimes those problems and those issues that we fail to deal with manifest themselves in a way that is catastrophic. In a way that we can't take back. In a way that there's no coming back from. So we got to deal. And it's painful. I understand that. Because I've been there. And I understand that pain. And I understand why we choose to avoid that. But you see, brothers and sisters, this is the great thing about pain. Pain is a sign of healing. You go to the hospital and you don't feel any pain, that's kind of all bad, because that means you're probably about to get up out of here. Pain is a sign of healing. Pain is a sign of growth. And as you as you go through that pain, it makes you stronger. So that way when the next challenge arises, when the next hurdle to jump over comes, you've already been prepared for it, brother or sister. You've already been prepared for it. Everything that you're going through now in your life, you have the strength. You have the skills. You have the wherewithal to overcome it. But you must first embrace not only your triumphs, but you also must embrace your tragedies. Because see, this is what the universal God does for us. Universal God knows we don't have sense to learn when we're on top of the mountain. God knows we don't have sense to learn when we're in the peak. We only learn from the valleys. And if you don't come to grips with your issues, if you don't come to grips with your problems, if you don't begin to unpack that baggage, you will be in a perpetual cycle. You'll constantly keep running. And you'll feel good for a minute. But then that good old baggage will rear its ugly head again. And the more you run, the less fleeing, or the more fleeing rather, that happiness is. Until you look up and you have no idea how the hell you got to where you got. So we must begin to unpack this baggage in order to maximize our potential on this earth. And in order to live a more productive and a more fulfilled life. So how do you go about that, do you ask? I'm glad you asked. So for starters, you must embrace how you feel. Because whether good or bad, whether right or wrong, brothers and sisters, you feel how you feel. And there's no getting around that. And a lot of times, some of our feelings and some of the ways that we feel about situations and some of the ways that we feel about people, we're ashamed of that. Right? Because we know we have no business feeling how we feel about that particular individual or about that particular situation, whatever the case may be. Insert your own baggage here. Feel free. We know we shouldn't feel how we feel. So we run from those feelings. And see, what I'm telling you to do is to run towards them. I'm telling you to embrace those feelings. Because you have no choice. Because you feel how you feel. And there's no amount of drug, there's no amount of drink, there's no amount of sex, there's no amount of anything else that's going to make you feel better about that. So you have to embrace it. And you have to overcome it. So the first thing you have to do in order to overcome it is to embrace how you feel. Just put it out there. You know what? This is how I feel about that situation. Now, obviously, I'm a good person at heart, so I know I shouldn't feel this way. So then the next thing you have to ask yourself is why you feel that way. You have to ask yourself why. And you have to be completely honest with you. You can't lie to God. You can't lie to you. You can lie to you. But it's futile. Because eventually that will rear its ugly head. Because what happens is if you don't deal with these issues, if you don't deal with these situations, you get older and you get older and you get older. You get more stuck in your ways. And then you start to become bitter. And you start to become jaded. And you start to become angry at everybody, at the world. Or you fall into a deep state of depression because you look back on your life and you look at all the missed opportunities. Because as you get older, the pieces of the puzzle are revealed to you. So you figure out exactly what you should have done. So you know what you should have done. So then you start to feel resentful and you start to feel depressed. You understand? And that's no way to live. That's no way to live. So you have to deal with these situations. So the first thing you need to do is embrace how you feel. I'm not saying you have to enjoy it. As a matter of fact, take emotion out of it. Take emotion out of it and say, you know what? This is how I feel. Whether good or bad, right or wrong, this is how I feel. I must deal with how I feel. So then you ask yourself, why do you feel that way? Because again, we've talked about this ad nauseum on this show. The most important question to ask is the why. So you have to ask yourself why. And then once you discover the why, now you must ask yourself, okay, What part did I play? Because whatever your baggage is, whatever your issues are, you might be completely justified for feeling how you feel about that situation or about that individual. Somebody might have done you dirty. But the universal God only gave us dominion over to change one person, and that's the one we see in the mirror. So you have to ask yourself, what part did I play? Because you can't change the other person. You can't make them see how you feel. But we sit up here and we hold on to this anger and this resentment towards other people, and 9 times out of 10, they don't even know we're holding it. So that's like drinking poison and drinking poison yourself and expecting the other person to die. Because they don't know. We sit up here and have these sleepless nights, and we go through this drug, and we go through that drug, and we go through that drink, and whatever, trying to numb that pain. And they don't feel that. So you have to ask yourself, what part did I play? And then if it's a situation with a person, all you can really do is pray to the universal God and ask him to take that burden off of you. Ask him to take that hardness away from your heart. Ask him to relieve that burden from you. But see, you have to deal with these things. Because by not dealing with these things, you're not hurting anybody but yourself. And you're not living up to your full potential. So then how does that manifest itself in a day-to-day way? You know, let me put the hay where the horse can eat it. So let's say you're going into a situation, whatever the situation may be, but you're going into it with your baggage. So see, you got all this baggage that you're worried about, and that's weighing you down. So now you can't be yourself in that situation. Like, you can't maximize the full potential of you in that situation. You have no room to be in tune with the signs, to be in tune with the rhythm of life, because you're worried about carrying all this baggage. And you might even be scared if somebody finds out about that baggage. So then you're only operating on half speed. You're only operating at half of you. So then you get half-assed results and you wonder why. Does that make sense? And it's because you haven't dealt with this stuff. We hide it to the side. We stash it away. We put it in the deepest down compartments in our minds, and sometimes we forget about it from time to time. Because we know that it's there. Because we feel it. Whether we want to admit it or not, we feel it. Because it's baggage, dude. It weighs you down. So in order to reach our full potentials as humans, we have to begin to unpack that. And it's a painful process, brothers and sisters. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a painful process. But trust me when I tell you, it's worth it. Because you're going to come out on the other side. You're going to play that situation all the way through and see what happened, what you did right, what you did wrong, how you feel. And once you deal with it, you're going to feel the weight. It's going to be like a weight is alleviated off of your shoulders. You're going to be able to breathe a little easier. You're going to be able to sleep a little easier. You're going to feel better. Most importantly, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel good about you. But understand, brothers and sisters, there's no shortcut to this. And if you need help, I don't think that there's that stigma of therapy that there was back in the day. So there's nothing wrong with seeking somebody out. seeking out counsel. And sometimes it's good to ask somebody else, a disinterested third party, because sometimes it's easier for somebody else to look in and see it, because sometimes it's hard for us to see while we're in the eye of the storm. So sometimes it's nice to have another set of eyes and ears. And hell, if you can't talk to anybody else, holler at me, man. That's what I'm here for. I'm the people's champ. You need to get some shit off your chest. You need to work through some stuff. Holler at me. Okay? You know how to get in touch with me. And if you don't, let me know and we'll make it happen. People's champ, baby. I do it for y'all. But you have to deal with that. There's no way around it, because when you don't, you end up becoming old, bitter, jaded, depressed. And that's no way to live. And it ain't like we got an infinite amount of time in this melon. So why waste it? See, we have to live. We got to start living in the truth. And see, everything that we know and everything that we think we know has been based upon and predicated upon a lie. So it's like trying to build a house on a foundation of quicksand. To break it down in layman's terms, shit's gonna be fucked up. So we got to get back to being truthful. And you start that by being truthful with yourself. And then once you commit to memory and you have a total understanding that it is futile to lie to myself. Once you understand that there's no good that can come from lying to you, then you'll look around and you'll say, you know what? There's no really any point in the lying to anybody. So let me get this baggage out of my way. And I'm going to present to you me. You're not going to get my representative. You're going to get me. Warts and all. Now, it may come to and you say, you know what? I can't deal with you. That's fine too. That's cool. But let's get back to having honest interactions with each other. And see, we can't do that as long as we're hanging on to this baggage because it's weighing us down. Eddie Murphy had an old joke talking about how the new girls to town, they're always so quiet. And the reason they're always so quiet is because they're scared if they talk too loud, a damn skeleton bone's going to fall out their mouths. Don't be weighed down by your past demons and your past transgressions. And let me tell you something else too. The universal God has already forgiven you. Regardless of what you've done. Or what you think you've done. Or how despicable of a human being you think you are. God has already forgiven you. So when I say that, you have no other choice but to forgive yourself. Because what are you going to say? What are you saying? You can't forgive yourself. What, you better than God, nigga? Nah. So when you say it like that, don't we have to kind of forgive ourselves? And then once you're able to forgive yourself, and once you're able to look inside yourself, and once you're able to see you for who you are, then you'll be able to take this knowledge and go out and look into other people. And if somebody has done you wrong, you'll be able to see where they're coming from. You'll be able to empathize with them on a human level. And not saying that you condone what they've done, but you'll at least be able to understand. And brothers and sisters, it's very hard to hold a grudge against somebody when you can empathize with them. When at the very least you understand where they're coming from, regardless of what they did. Now, this isn't always the easy route. It's hard to be the bigger person. But when you know better, you must do better. And unfortunately for the 6 of you, y'all motherfuckers now know better. We're gonna come back to this topic though, because there's a lot of meat on those bones that we haven't picked yet. So we're gonna come back to this topic. For the time being though, we're gonna go ahead and shut this down for the evening. Now we're not gonna have no show next week. I'm gotta step out of town. I gotta do some traveling to go take care of some business. I'm actually going to be on a plane at the time that the show normally airs. So we're not gonna have a show next week. But if you need your Straight Talk fix, you can go to the YouTube channel, Straight Talk IGC. We've got previous broadcasts on there, and we're gonna figure out how to do some fun stuff with that. We're gonna do some other things. I got a couple of ideas floating around my bean head, so we're gonna do some things with that. But if you need your Straight Talk fix, that's where you can find it. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook at Christopher Platt. Also, follow me on Twitter at The Real C Platt. Again, I'm on Twitter at The Real C Platt. So follow me there as well. Again, no show next week. If you need your Straight Talk fix, go to the YouTube page, which is Straight Talk IGC. Again, that's Straight Talk IGC. And because advertisement works in threes, we're going to go to the Straight Talk IGC. Okay? You guys be good. Be good to each other. And remember, man, we have to start unpacking that baggage. For you. We got to start unpacking that baggage. We don't want to be the bag lady. Bags get heavy, right? We're going to come back to this topic, though. Again, there's a lot of meat on these bones, but I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for the evening. Again, no Straight Talk next week. Enjoy the NBA Finals, June 4th. Go Cavs. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, God willing. And until we meet again, shalom.